This episode of Getting Tabled is brought to you by Valhalla Hobby. Use code GT2305 to get 5% off any order over $100. You can find them at valhallahobby.com.
Brought to you by some guys on the internet.
This is Getting Tabled.
With your hosts Jason the Bruce,
You guy!
George the Yang,
I hope you are all entertained by my inaptitude.
Jason aka Major Socks.
We've been doing this and talking about various stuff. One of the stuff.
Now sit back, relax, and get tabled.
Hello, future people, and welcome to episode 104 of Getting Tabled with your host, the Bruce.
Hello, folks. Here we are. We're back at it again. We've also got with us the man that has the major problem with the fact that we get his name wrong all the time. It's Civvy Socks.
It is Civvy Socks. And look, George, I'm wearing a t-shirt today.
Oh my god, I just noticed that you're wearing a flippin' t-shirt. No, I FaceTimed him the other day to, give him a couple little, painting tips. And he's already wearing, a white polo. I'm like, first of all, one, it's Saturday, why are you wearing a polo? Two, why are you wearing a white one if you're painting?
That's Yes, why were you wearing a white one when you were trying to paint? Granted, we are
I don't
coming
know.
back to talking about painting later, but...
I know, yeah. I'm actually wearing a t-shirt. Unlike most of the other episodes where you see me wearing a polo. So, yes, George, I have other things other than a polo.
Wait, is NFC, is that a Niners shirt?
It is a Niners shirt.
Oh, God. No counting for taste.
We're talking about the football that's not really football, right?
Yes.
Right, yes. We're talking about the football that's not football, but we
Gridiron.
don't call football because we have
That's
that football.
soccer. Yeah. And we have George, who is
It's
not
okay.
freezing in Wyoming? I don't know.
No. I had snow yesterday morning.
Oh, that's right.
It's a
turned
day
50.
that ended in Y, so snow was involved.
Yes.
Bruce, that is the most accurate statement you can make without ever having been here.
There's this interesting thing that we do at the start of every episode, and it's called The News.
Newly received or noteworthy information, especially about recent or important events.
Starting with those cretins at Games Workshop, although they haven't actually done anything bad at the moment. I wanted to talk about Old World again. I still have the same opinion of Old World. I still don't think that there's enough room in the industry for both of their games, but they are continuing to show off with the Bretonians, and I don't think it's accident that they're using the Bretonians because of all of the old armies that got killed. This fan base is the one that was the loudest.
Well, two things too. So one, the Bretonians, they were screaming about for the longest time, the fans, Undead's getting all this stuff, this is getting all this, when are we going to get stuff? We want stuff now.
And they refused to
two-
accept that in Age of Sigmar, Bretonia did not exist. Like, it just wasn't there, and it was never going to
Yeah.
be there. Even before they decided to bring back Old World, there was...
But-
Bretonia was never coming back.
But two, if Bretonia ever does exist in Sigmar, I think Bretonia should be the only faction where they are still on the standard rectangle basis because of how the army functions with its web formation charge stuff.
The problem... I don't know if you could actually do that in Age of Sigmar, have two different styles of bases. I think that would actually cause some problems.
Yes and no. Just because Sigmar, it's more of a scatter. You have cohesion like you do with Warhammer 40k.
Mm.
There's nothing saying you can't have base-to-base contact. And if you have an army like this where the point is to have a wedge formation drive into, there's no reason why you couldn't do that.
Yeah, fair enough. So far, I like what I'm seeing from them. I mean, these just feel like the old models, which is a good thing and a bad thing. I think these are probably going a little bit too far in the... I don't know, these feel old, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Because these models aren't for me. I don't have nostalgia for this, so therefore I'm not getting excited about it. I'm not saying it's bad, it's just not grabbing me.
I've seen a lot of Bretonian, and...
Oh, I just realized something. They are actually showing off old models.
Oh, they are? Okay, good. I was going to say,
models.
This looks like they've done nothing. So if
Yep.
it's old models, then never mind.
Yeah, no, I'm just an idiot apparently.
Well, that only happens on days that end with Y. So
I find this
Yeah.
particular interesting. About halfway down, question: are the models going to get bigger? No, the new models are going to be in exactly the same scale. I expect that not to be the case within 2 years of launch. I'm not saying that it'll be a deliberate thing, but I do believe that that will change because it's Games Workshop. It always will.
I'm going to disagree with that. Just because one, if they bring Old World back with square bases, rank and file, there's armies that will cross over between Sigmar and Old World. And so if you start doing scale changes for Old World, you're going to have to start doing scale changes for Sigmar. And so far, Sigmar has not changed its scale since it came out. I mean,
no, but it is actually bigger than the Old World stuff too, though.
No, it's not.
My point was more side by side. It's because it leans a little bit more heavily into the heroic side of, because it's more like that 32-ish rather than the 28 that the Old World always used to be.
Well, my argument is the dwarves that carried over from Fantasy to Sigmar have not changed scale at all. They are exactly the same.
Yes, I
Just
know, because they
basic
haven't
version.
been redone. I'm
Right,
talking
because
about
they
the
don't
newer
need to be
stuff.
redone because they are already the fairly recent redone models on some of those.
Socks, do you get what I'm trying to say?
I understand what you're saying, Bruce. I'm just
Because
saying
the
how
dwarves
I
haven't.
don't think.
Yeah, I'm specifically talking about the new stuff is of a larger scale than the old stuff was. I realize they're still using older models.
The Calderon, the Fire Slayers, it's all the same scale as the other dwarves.
Okay,
Fire
therefore
Slayer-
I'm wrong. That's fine.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is I don't think so because I think everything else that has been consistent from Fantasy to Sigmar so far hasn't changed any yet.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
There is another side of this that I think is probably worth questioning as well. And I mean, this is not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just something I'm going to be interested to see over time. Age of Sigmar, like the modern Age of Sigmar, consistently has more detail in it than the older stuff. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is completely irrelevant to my comment. I'm just wondering, because if they start trying to do that with the old world, all of the older stuff is going to look majorly out of date very quickly. So I'm wondering if they'll kind of reel that back a little bit, except for heroes, hopefully. Like, only the heroes are the big... That's the way that I'm hoping that they will do it.
I don't think so. I think if they're going to do anything to boost sales again to make Old World happen, I think if they re-release stuff, it's going to be same scale, but with more detail, like you're seeing on some of your Age of Sigmar stuff.
So that you look at it and go, I can't own the old stuff anymore.
Right. So I think we'll use Bretonnians here for example. One of the most well-known characters for Bretonnia was the Green Knight.
Yeah,
I guarantee you, if Old World comes back, the Green Knight that we're going to get is going to be way more detailed, look way better, still be the same scale.
Yeah,
maybe a little bigger since that is a Green Knight, But like for the normal troops, I don't think. But the detail I think will be there the way it is with like the Stormcast and numerous others. The Calderon, all the other new Sigmar armies that have amazing amounts of detail. I think that's what you'll see on the new stuff when they bring it back for Old World.
Yeah. I am expecting that when this does launch, that there will be there'll be two sides of this argument. There'll be one of them that get very, very happy and very excited because they finally have back what they want. And there'll be a very upset fan base that can't buy it because it'll all be sold out. But I also expect that this is going to be a flash in the pan. I don't think this is going to be as big as people want it to be. I don't think there's enough room in the industry for both games.
And I'm not going to disagree with that because, ultimately you are talking about two inherently very, very different games. I mean, the fact that, just the bases are different. So you can't base up a Sigmar army and then turn around and use it in Old World. It's going to be clunky as hell. You know, I'm sure unless someone gets really clever and comes up with something to, you know, I
Right.
guess movement tray Sigmar bases. Yeah, you're gonna have people like, I can't spend money on two armies. I'm gonna pick one or the other. You're
Yeah.
gonna have your hardcores that's gonna switch back from Sigmar to Old World. But then in 5 years, I say 5 years, you're gonna run to the same thing of, we're not doing Old World anymore, and then you're gonna have all those people crying again.
Or it'll be Age of Sigmar this time. It'll be one or the other. It won't be both.
I don't think I think when they did Sigmar and they got in the second release, Sigmar is so good and
It's
so
the best
solid
game
as
that
far
they
as,
have on the market right now.
yeah. So I don't think
Oh,
that,
from what I hear, Warcry is better. I do own some Warcry, but I've not played it. So maybe it's
I
the second
would-
best game they own right now.
I would argue Warcry is more of a board game than, you know, their traditional game. If they do kill Sigmar, I think that's probably one of the dumbest things. That'd be on par with like, we're just gonna stop doing 40k now. Like I don't foresee them doing that. I think they really hit the nail on the head when they did Sigmar. If something happens, it's fantasy that goes away again.
I had another point and I forgot what it was. Me and Steve, my housemate, was talking about this down the street the other day, and he kind of raised a point that I thought was, I pretty much agreed with him entirely, because I'm not someone that played for fantasy, because when fantasy was a thing and I was coming into the hobby, fantasy was a game where until you owned 2,000 points of something, you more or less were not allowed to play a game of it. Now, obviously, yes, you were allowed to play a game of it. But that's not the way that the community
But you were
was.
competitive. Yeah.
And I'm sorry if you're a part of that community and you disagree with me. You're remembering this wrong. Because people would not let you play with less than a full game because it was a waste of their time. I had this on multiple occasions. It's why I never played fantasy. Because I could have a game of 40k without getting to that point. So 40k was easier. But apparently it never used to be that way back in 6th edition because it didn't bloat to the level that it did up in 7th and 8th, which is where a lot of the popularity disappeared as well. So he was like, if they're smart, they're going to base the game at around the 6th edition when the game was at its height. And I can't disagree with him on that. It does make a lot of sense. Like, again, I'm someone that didn't play the original game. I'm well versed in the lore. I mean, I love the lore, but the game itself always felt very old to me because it was. Certainly not as old as Lord of the Rings, but it was old. And that's probably one of the reasons why I was never upset about it because I never invested.
Yeah, if they are bringing this back, what they need to do is kind of what they got going with Sigmar and 40k, where they have 3 separate, distinct sizes of games to play.
Yes, because if they don't do that, it's going to be a complete waste of their time and money.
Because
this is the thing. The problem I see is that if they concentrate too much on the old rules, like they did with Blood Bowl, for example, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing in the case of Blood Bowl, but if all they do is release the old version, then it's going to be a game that's 10, 12, 15 years out of date at this point. How it's been dead for 8 years?
At least.
And the previous edition was at least 2 or 3 years old before it was killed. Because in theory it would have been due for a 9th edition when it was killed. So that's a decade old. Like, there is going to have to be updates. And we know that there's updates coming because otherwise they wouldn't have just... this is not fantasy, it's a new game.
Age of Sigmar was launched in 2015. So you could argue...
I'm pretty much bang on the money there.
Yeah, so yeah, you could argue that when Sigmar launched, fantasy died essentially, and that's where all the rage quit happened. So yeah, you're pretty much bang on the money. The reason why they also need to do that too is I think one, tournament scene, because as much as I'm
used
not
to
a
be the
fan
bread
of
and butter of
tournaments,
fantasy.
yeah,
Also
tournaments
than
are
40K.
a thing. Yeah, and if you look at tournaments have gone away from the 2,000 point list. I think more of the like 1,500, 1,000 point. Like getting the games done in a timely fashion, getting more games in, I think is more of the drive versus,
Yep.
You got 2.5 hours to, play around with, combined 4,000 points on the game. Get to it, go.
I mean, if you was to make a game from scratch now and try to advertise it on Kickstarter, you're not going for a mass fantasy game. You're going for a skirmish game because that's literally where all of the money is. Now, obviously, that doesn't work for fantasy, and I'm not suggesting that's what they should do. I'm more using that as a comparison for the market tends to drift the other way now. Even Conquest, which is a mass fantasy game,
Mm-hmm.
like you don't have as many models in that as you used to have in this.
Yeah. In my opinion, what you should do for like a perfect size Sigmar, or not Sigmar fantasy game, you have your hero, like your general, your leader, whatever, right? You have 2 normal army units. They march across the field, they do their thing, and you have like a range unit. Got a total of 4 units, 3 of them are troops, 1 of them, the single hero. And of course, scale up or down based on the points. Obviously dwarves are going to have fewer because they're a higher point model, they're more durable. Skaven, you're going to have, 10 times that because it's just a bunch of rats. But it's like, that's where you need to focus, is that size, and scale it appropriately point-wise for the faction.
Socks,
Hmm.
because I know that you're so engrossed in this conversation, I'm going to distract you from how glorious this conversation is with a thought. From your perspective, when does a game become too big? Like, how many models is too many models for a game? Because you mainly play skirmish stuff, right? I know you
Right
have
now-
played larger stuff. Like you played Bolt Action for a while, which is larger.
I've played bolt action, which you usually have 1 vehicle, so 1 tank, 1 half track, and then you've got like 2 platoons worth of infantry, which ranges from 15 to 20 models each platoon. So you got about 30 infantry, and then you got your commander, and then you got some machine guns teams, mortar teams, that kind of stuff. And so you're looking at about probably 35, 40 models by the time you've got your full army. But with what I'm getting into, I'm going large scale.
Okay.
The Gettysburg set, each of my regiments is 5 bases, and I'm actually going to build them out so I can have large regiments, which would be 7 bases each. And so that's going to be about foot to foot and a half wide when I get bases.
Would you be
units
making
that
the
big.
same decision if it was in 28 mil?
No. If it was in 28 mil, no, I wouldn't. But because it's at 15 mil,
It makes it easy.
I can, I can make it. I can make it bigger units and
I've
be
just
just
realized,
fine.
distracting from the news for a moment, I just realized something that I probably should have realized a few episodes ago when he talked about getting the Gettysburg. Socks is officially getting old. He's playing smaller scale games. He's officially older than the both of us.
Thanks, Bruce. I actually started in 15 mil because I started with
I
Flames of
know.
War.
It's essentially just a thing. Yeah.
Socks. What's your favorite flavor of Metamucil?
Metamucil
going
has
back to-
flavors? Are you sure?
Yeah, but I mean, I've always liked going large scale. That's why I got so much money into
And it's why it exists.
Armada. Is because
So-
I loved having like 3 or 4 ISDs, Star Destroyers, and like same equivalent of Rebel ships.
I'm going to throw this number out, Bruce. 50
models?
minis.
Yep.
I think is like the ideal average, because if you break that down, that's 5 10-man units.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So, and if you start breaking that down financially, how much is a 10-man box of Marines? That's $60. So you're looking at 600.
Yeah, which
That's
is about right.
all right for Games Workshop. I mean, other games you'll get way more for that price and everything. But I would say 50 models is probably an ideal army size for a tournament size game.
Yeah. Well,
You start doing more than that, you start getting too many. I mean, like Skaven,
yeah.
that's one of those things where it's like you're gonna have 80 because it's Skaven.
Yeah.
You can't get around that. So,
And I mean, if you have a mass battle game, one of those armies should be a horde army. Whether it's, yes,
Mhm.
that direction, or quite frequently it's the undead faction or orcs. Sometimes it's a mixture of both. Games Workshop doesn't generally tend to be horde in the undead. I mean, they are sometimes. It depends on how you build the armies out. If it's a zombie based game, then obviously, or army, then yes. But
Yeah.
a
No,
lot of them aren't.
that's the one thing that was really evident in especially fantasy is Games Workshop had a lot of versatility of did you have a horde army or did you have like a high value army
So
like
even
the
Skaven in the
Widows
modern
with the,
day have options for not being a horde now.
yeah, but like the back in the day the Widows with their tree folk, you could put 1,500 points on the table and have 20 models.
Yeah.
So
All right. Let's
moving
move
on
from Games Workshop
Yeah.
fantasy to Games Workshop science fiction of some really cool looking minis with, I think, the worst name I've ever seen given to a model in Games Workshop. I like the Von Ryan's Leapers. I mean, I get that this is a name that's going to come from lore somewhere. I don't really know or care where that name is. I just think it's the worst name I've ever heard them give.
It was someone named Von Ryan that discovered him and named him.
That makes sense. I like everything about these models apart from their heads, but I think that may actually be the paint job because their eyes look like teeth because of the way they've been painted. But it is what it is.
I mean, they do have some mandibles.
Sculpt-wise, they are gorgeous. These are basically updated versions of the Lictors, or a different version of the Lictor, I should say.
Here's my one complaint with a lot of Tyranid stuff. Like, okay, we got the claws, you got the head with the mandibles and the weird tongue things, and you got like the exoskeleton, and you got like the weird pale sickly looking flesh, and you got the legs with like the multiple joints and more of the exoskeleton, and then you have cloven hooves.
Yeah, the cloven hooves are a little... I suppose the cloven hooves are just because, well, they've got to make it look non-human as possible, but...
Great, they're insects.
Yeah, I
not
know.
bovine.
That's where I was going to go. Why are they not insect legs? Yeah.
So, I mean, there's literally hundreds of different options they could do for feet. Instead, they've slapped Minotaur feet on an insect that can shred a marine.
Yeah.
Like, everything but the feet looks great about this mini. Just any of the Tyranids that have cloven hooves, why? And it's not just it's even like the little ones too. They all have hooves.
I'd never even really noticed it until now, but you're right. And you're right. I don't have any argument against you at all. It is really weird. And
Tell me it doesn't bother you now.
No, it does now that I've seen it. Because it's just, I mean, don't get me wrong. I realize that you want to make something look as alien as possible, so yeah, maybe that works. But for the way that hooves, it just...
Why?
I mean, I guess horses are fast and stuff, but they're bugs, they're insects. So yes, why would you not be... I guess the only benefit of the hooves is insect legs tend to be rather pointy and stuff, and that makes them difficult to glue onto a base. But
yeah,
most of these are technical rocks anyway, so it already solves that problem.
The Broodlord doesn't have hooves.
Oh, okay.
So there's one. Like literally everything else has hooves though. Well,
that you've seen.
There's like the Hive Tyrant.
If that Broodlord is the one that came out a couple of years ago, that model is still one of the best Tyranids they've ever done. Yeah,
like the Gene Stealers, the Termagants, the Lictors, the Tyrannofex, the what? Yeah, they'll have cloven hooves.
For the big things, I could understand why with the big things because you want it to be a little bit more chunky. But with these small, nimbly little things, it just doesn't. No, you're right. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
You're welcome for me ruining Tyranids for you now.
I've never painted Tyranids. I've never owned a Tyranid. I've been ruined on the tabletop by them by people that used to moan and complained that they were terrible all the time, and they were a power gamer, and just ruined everybody that they were on the table with, so had no right to complain.
Yeah, no, Tyranids, I think were like aesthetic and appearance wise, I think are one of probably the best armies Games Workshop makes because they are so different from everything else in the games.
Yeah.
Like in Sigmar and Fantasy, there is nothing even close to resembling a Tyranid.
I mean, to the point where like there are some really cool looking alien models out there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But industry wise, I think the Tyranid have been the standard for a long time. I mean, Infinity would come close with some of their alien stuff. I mean, obviously, Alien is Alien, but that kind of is what Games Workshop ripped off to begin with anyway. Sorry, we're inspired by to begin with anyway.
But the great thing about Tyranids is like it was really easy to make them look good too because you have very distinct parts to them. You have the body, you have the exoskeleton, and then you have weaponry. You have very distinct parts to them. And you use your magical color wheel of contrast and you follow that, and guess what? You have some very colorful, dynamic, eye-popping minis.
And contrast makes painting Tyranids a lot easier too.
Oh, like sure.
This particular painting style, with like the very pale purple, used to be a lot harder than it looked. Like commission painters would quite frequently charge more for this because it's not hard; it's just a lot more work to get it to look right. And people would always. I used to know a couple of commission painters, and it was one of their frequent complaints that people just never understood. Like it's just easy, why is, and it's because it's just so much more work. But I paint my own stuff, so I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. This was actually revealed like mid last week. I want to say I could be slightly off on that. I think it was just after we recorded actually. But I just thought it was interesting. The 10th, so it was last week. Let's move on to a game that we are talking about for the third time now, which is just because I've been following the Don't Look Back back room.
You just like it so much.
Oh, I love this game.
I know you do.
So the last time we spoke about it, I still hadn't placed my order. I have placed my order now. I have gone in for Tier 1 bundle, which means I am getting my lovely meat cleaver. I am getting some of the unlocks, not all of the unlocks, because I still have to work within a budget. And I have also ordered the thing that I said I was going to order last time, which is the new trader expansion. Since then, we've had some more unlocks. And in fact, if you look down far enough, you'll see we have all of the unlocks. Because at this particular stage, I'm going back up to the top, at time of recording, they have got to $96,568.07. They have done very, very well. But scrolling back down to the bottom,
that Northwood MDF kit looks nice. That huge mansion.
Yes, I agree. That's where I was leading, actually. I'm going to come back to that, though.
Way to ruin his thunder there, Socks. Jeez.
Sorry, Bruce.
No, it's fine. I have it up ready to talk about. The Manhunt expansion. So this is one of the surprise unlocks. Like this just got announced on, I want to say Thursday, during one of their live streams. They've been doing a weekly live stream every week. When the game Backroom was being launched, there was this thing about V13. So the 13th person was like going to be involved in the game or something. Or there was a meme in the community about the 13th customer being involved. And I don't think that's ever officially been a thing. It's just a meme that was going through. But because of that, V13 has been created as a 13th character in the game, which is this guy that works for DeGraw. Basically, his character is that he goes out hunting for these monsters and stuff, and that's basically everything he does. There is also a killer in this. We don't know what the killer is yet. And obviously a new plot, because all of these have new plots. There's also Cold Case, which I kind of like. It's literally a guy carrying around cold cases of something. So this is a guy that owns the local ice cream shop. you'll notice that there was an ice cream shop terrain piece in that thing that you spoke about a few seconds ago, Socks. There's a new trait, Chilled Touch. This one just sounds a lot of fun. I love the creepy smile on his face. There's always something creepy about something like genuinely fairly innocent that's been twisted. And I mean, someone that sells ice cream is generally considered to be a rather innocent thing. It's very easy to twist it to make it look horrible. If you're going to do it, obviously you need to put blood over his apron there. But yes, creme de la creme. Let's talk about, I think, my new favorite piece of terrain. It's not quite as big as the shopping center, so obviously it doesn't quite compare in that sense. But this thing
Still could be big.
Huge. This is literally this is a gaming table. Like this plays on a 3x3. It's to 28 to 32 mil scale. This is 12 inches by 10 inches, and it's 13 inches tall for the main building.
I'm
Plus
counting
the other
about four levels.
Yep. So in total, it's 32 inches long. So it's literally the length of the table, and it's 10 inches deep and 13 inches tall. This is literally a gaming table. And they've designed it to be modular, so that they have designed it so that you don't have to use all of it if you didn't want to. And you called it a mansion, because that's basically what it is. It's supposed to be the lunatic asylum. But what are most of those built on? Old mansions. Very few of them, at least back in these days, very few of them were actually built for purpose. They were usually...
That makes so much more sense that it's an asylum.
Yes.
Well, no, because if you look at the ice cream dude, look at the face and tell me it's not a Joker.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Speaking of, I didn't actually open the Mr. Whipper's ice cream shop. But that is also fun. Much smaller, obviously, but that is also fun. Some nice little details, like you've got the little shops there. There's the little storage room out the back, and it just works. I love the little AC unit on the roof. It's fun. I like it.
And again, and I'm going to keep saying this until someone actually pays me to stop saying this. But I just love the fact that all their terrain pieces are designed to also be played inside of, not just it's there.
Yep.
Like it's designed to go into.
Yes, and this one in particular, like I said, this is literally a game board as a piece of terrain.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not everything obviously is supposed to be within an asylum, but there's no reason why you couldn't twist it to work that way. 100%. There's no reason why you couldn't. And because of the way they've designed it, because, I mean, if you look at the second picture, you can see that they're only showing off one of the side buildings, but you can see it. But if you take that away, it is just a large building in the center of the table.
Oh, yeah.
It still works. Likewise, if you want it to be a shorter building, all you need to do is take off pieces. And I think as far as the steps are concerned at the front there, that is maybe the best looking staircase I've seen in MDF buildings, which is a really boring thing to say, but those stairs are awesome. They just work really well.
Yeah. No, for sure. Again, just they're killing it on the train for this game.
Yeah. So yeah, don't look back. This is probably the last time we're going to talk about it until something new happens now. I mean, I love this game. It's why I keep on following it. There's certainly stuff in here that we haven't mentioned. Like there is these the Killers of Northwood packs and so forth, and the terrain pieces for the cars and so forth, which is just to bring more life to your table. There's even retail bundles and stuff. Like, if you're at all interested in horror, if you're interested in a game that is probably different than anything else on the market, Don't Look Back is legitimately one of the best things on the market right now. But, shall we have a look at some TT combat stuff?
Yeah, we should look at TT combat. Making a comeback We
The
have the
monorail.
monorail.
Yeah. Now,
Not just a monorail, 2 monorails.
Yes. Now, I don't remember the military monorail. Was that a thing previously?
No, it was just the civilian one. So the
Okay,
military
I
one
was
is
right
brand
then.
new.
Yeah, I thought it was. I just wanted to double check. Because obviously I wasn't a zone player at the time when this was first around, so I could have been wrong. I will open up the civilian one first, just because, well, not everybody will have seen it. This was, I think, arguably probably one of the most popular pieces of terrain that Hawk ever had. It's been very popular and it's been in high demand ever since it went out of print.
Yeah.
It's good to see that it's finally back.
Yeah, especially since when it first came out, they had scenarios where the objectives were in the monorail, and the monorail would go across the map.
Yeah.
And so you'd have to chase this thing down. And in their description, they got the scenarios back with the monorails. So it's good to see that those are coming back too.
Yeah.
That just sounds like a really fun scenario.
I love the idea of a scenario that isn't that actually moves. I really do like that. The military one is just all kinds of fun. I mean, you can see that it's kind of based on the other one, which is fine. But I love this so much. This is
Especially
just all kinds
since
of
the
fun.
fact that one of the trains has a ICBM on it.
Is that the big thing that's sticking straight up?
Yeah,
Yes.
I
it's got a
want to know.
tactical nuke inside of it.
I want to know if that actually works. Like, if it actually will do this, if you build it properly. Because I suspect it will by looking at it.
If it's not designed to, you could easily use a ball bearing and a magnet and make it do that.
You wouldn't want to use a ball bearing because it's not meant to do this. It's only meant to go like that. So it would just be,
Yeah, I
it would
know.
just be regular magnets. You wouldn't want something round because you won't want it to do that.
Well, you'd want it to hinge open, so you'd want something round for it to.
Yeah, but you
Slide
just,
up
you
on
just have
stuff.
2 cylinders that are doing this. Because if you have a ball and socket, it's
Yeah, I suppose.
I keep on talking away from my microphone. I need to stop doing that.
But I mean, the other train cars look cool too, with the small little turrets and the big railgun.
Yeah, they've done really, really well with this. I don't know who it is that designed this. I don't think it says, but whoever it is that has been sculpting this. Oh, I know. It'll be Dave. Of course it is. Dave sculpts everything for Drop.
Who's Dave?
Somebody that's very popular and is locked in a cupboard somewhere. But, going back, we also finally have our space stations up for pre-order. We spoke about this a couple of weeks ago when they were teased. So we have the PHR, the Resistance, and the Shaltari small space stations all out now. Well, out for pre-order. And that's it, really. Because we spoke about the vampire stuff for Rumble Slam last episode. But
So looking at the monorail scenarios, you
Yes.
can launch the nuke.
ah, brilliant.
Once per game, if the defender holds the military monorail, they may attempt to launch its devastating payload. At the end, and then you got to prime it. So at the end of the roundup phase, roll a dice on a 4-up. The weapon is primed, and at the end of the next roundup phase, you may proceed to targeting. Then you target on a 4-up. You can target anywhere on the board, and then you fire. And all units within 12 inches of the target takes D6 damage. Roll once and apply the effect result to all affected units.
Oh,
Units
that's
and
fun.
scenery within 6 inches take an additional D6 damage. So yes, you can launch the nuke.
Yeah, I love that. That's brilliant.
Can I talk about how disappointed I am in the Resistance space station?
Sure.
Yeah, I was.
It does kind of look like it's just one of their ships.
Yes.
Yeah.
They repurposed one of their cruisers.
Which, for a Resistance thing, makes sense. I mean, this is very clearly a ship that is not capable of flying anymore. Hence, it's missing all of that armor. I do kind of like the front of it where it's missing all of the armor, but
So here's my argument: if it's the Resistance and they have this, I wouldn't turn it into a space station. I would get the parts and pieces and turn it into a usable functioning ship again. I'm sorry, if the Resistance is in space and they have spaceships, they've got to have some sort of station. And to use a ship as a station when you could fix the ship and use it as a ship, I think is totally wrong.
I think the point is that they don't have the parts to actually fix it, though. Because they are barely scraping by being in space to begin with. Hence the reason why Dave initially didn't want them in space. Because the original point was that they weren't supposed to be there, and this got changed
They were
later.
supposed to be stuck on the ground.
Yeah.
I get that too, though, but it's, ships are also getting damaged and destroyed all the time too. You pull the parts off those, you put it on another ship.
True.
I think that's why I don't agree with the ship station. Like, if Dave finally caved and put the Resistance in space, that means they've got some level of technology to get into space. They can have some other type of space station cobbled together and made without using the chassis of a ship that would be more useful to resist it.
Yeah, I can see that.
So that's my argument. I mean, it looks fine. I'm just
I love how it looks, but that doesn't mean that I don't see what you're saying. I just aesthetically, I love the exposure. It just looks really cool. From a storyline perspective, I completely get what you're saying though, because you're right. They couldn't if they're scraping by and barely holding on to be in space. They couldn't afford to just let this sit there as a spaceship. I mean, as a space station. But in saying that, it also is probably because them having an actual space station probably wouldn't make much sense either. So,
well, I think it would be even more cobbled together too. Like if you were to take, half the ship and shove it together with like another like different part of a ship and like not have it be ship-like anymore.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or something that is like split in the middle and then like has been kind of cobbled back together because they didn't have enough to fix it, but they had enough to kind of just seal it maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that.
So, the Sheltari station.
To me, this kind of screams to something like the game had to have something like this, so they've just done whatever they could to make it work the most.
Yeah.
But yes, there is a Resistance. So there is a Sheltari one as well. From memory, I don't think you liked this when you first looked at it.
So there's two types. There's two types. It looks like there's one with
same with all of them.
A green pyramid and a green sphere.
Yep.
I'm kind of okay with the green sphere one.
Yeah.
Not the green pyramid one.
That's fair. The pyramid does look out of place.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't hate
that might be your date one.
It looks more Goa'uld than Sheltari.
Very much so. And I'm a Stargate person, so I do love that aesthetic. But it just makes me want a Stargate game.
The pyramid one might be your gate, because you got a gate manipulator. No, sorry, a gate station as well as a gravity manipulator. My guess is the gravity one is the sphere.
That would make sense.
Not having looked at the rules for them.
I could see it going either way, but yeah.
It could be other way too.
I
do like the PHR ones.
Yeah, the PHR ones is what I've just opened up now. I just want to, like, Socks, while you've got it up, I assume that you have it open?
I do.
I'm going to ruin it for you. Droidicars.
Yeah.
It looks like the Droidicars, the rolling droids
Yep.
from Star Wars Episode 2.
Well, at least the ones with the burn through. The one with the missile pod, not so much.
So, but it's
Yeah,
the neck the neck and the arms that makes it look that way. It's not a criticism.
Yeah.
I actually really like how this looks.
Yeah, but the one with the missile pods has
yeah.
too much in the center to make it not look as much. The one with the triple burn through does a little bit more.
Yep.
Oh, that is triple. I didn't even see the third one hanging down.
Yeah, it's hard to hear. I didn't see until I read the descriptions and said, "Oh wait, there is 3."
Yeah, it's because it's all silver, so it all kind of blends in together.
Mm-hmm.
Which is always a problem with this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Of
Terrain?
the three, I think PHR has the better looking.
Yeah.
Of the, I don't remember if that's what I said initially, but of the three,
PHR is hard to ruin the look of. Have some grayish silver mechanical bits with smooth flat surfaces. It's PHR.
yeah. Aesthetically, and I'm purely talking aesthetics and looks here, the Resistance is a very close second for me. Purely talking from an aesthetical point of view. Because aesthetically, I don't think you could argue that it looks cool. Whether it makes sense or not is completely irrelevant. It just looks cool.
No, I would say it probably even maybe looks better than the PHR, just because it is so
raw,
industrial looking.
I love the fact that everything's exposed.
Well, and they've stripped off the engines. They've stripped off the pretty much anything that's, like George was saying, not going to be used on a ship. They've stripped everything else off.
That's actually a good point, yeah. Yes, there is also new terrain. One piece in particular catches my eye, but I'm going to say what that is in a moment. So we've got a few things that are very much, they're very much modular, I want to say, honestly. And to me, I feel they kind of belong in a galaxy far away, sort of. I can see, like, especially with that first kit, that screams Star Wars. I don't think it's in the right scale, though. Everything else is kind of generic enough where it probably is, let's be fair, 40k. The Crag Forge Stonemason is quite nice. I mean, it doesn't quite look dwarvish, but I could see it belonging in one of those, I guess. It's meant to be a fantasy thing, but I actually think this looks generic enough that it could fit in sci-fi very easily, honestly. I mean, stonemasonry obviously is, yes, something that makes a lot of sense in fantasy, but I mean, it's a giant crane. You can't tell me that doesn't fit into sci-fi very easily. Very easy to justify something like that. The stoneworks, so the Cragfork works, the Dwarven Crypt. Oh, it is all supposed to be Dwarven. Oh, I was right. Never mind. So this all kind of belongs together. They're all, like, with the exception of the Cragforge Works and the Cragforge Mines, they're all kind of like that middle tier. There's a bundle of the Dwarven Dwellings as well, which is quite nice. My favourite, because we've spoken about the Toshi stuff before, my favourite is the Rally Post. Genuinely. I love this so much. It's very modular. It all fits together. And you both have military backgrounds, right?
Yep.
Where's the... Oh, there we go. The Rally Post. There we go. I was like, what?
So
it's the second one from the top.
In the middle of the city. Those four corners all have dedications to one particular member of the military. And in the middle, you have your unknown soldier thing. That is how I would use this.
I like the fact that they're actually like, this is very, very race specific.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And usually, like with some of the fantasy stuff, like MDF is really hard to do just because, it needs to have a softer look because, it's stone, but we're talking about dwarves here. Dwarves are rumored, mythical, whatever, they'll take two pieces of stone and shape them together and you can't see the seam because they're that good. You can get away with that with MDF and have it look really good. Like the Crag Forge Works. I am loving that one.
Yeah, I love it. I honestly may actually purchase this Rally Post at some stage. But also in saying that, I'm very tempted that if I do, to actually have them as four completely separate pieces. Like have them as four different dedications to like one for an old mayor that discovered the city, one for like the police. Like I'm thinking Entropy City here, like this monuments within like a parklands or something. Obviously, you would keep the statues separately because then you can use it for multiple things. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like even like objective points.
yes, actually, yes, definitely.
Like you could almost do it like, like say kill team, right? Do kill team to where it's like it's a intentional arena bloodbath type sport.
Yeah.
And so like, maybe have like stationary guns that like have certain benefits, or and then the scoring objectives and stuff like that. Like, I could see something like that being a very like usable interactive piece of terrain instead of just
A literal
piece
king of
terrain
the
that
hill.
looks-
A literal
kind of.
king of the hill setup.
like or almost a capture the flag type thing.
Yeah.
And yes, the Crag Works is really nice. Or the Crag Forge Works is really nice. I do agree with you on that. This is all good.
Well,
Like I
even-
said, it's supposed to be fantasy, but there's nothing about this. You could use this anywhere. Honestly, you could. The only one that you couldn't use anywhere would probably be the Dwarven Crypt because, well, I suppose it could be a spaceship.
No, you could.
This is very Dwarven mind.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you're on an alien world and you'd like go
So
into
you
and
could
then
use that
there's
almost as a Jedi or a Sith temple.
yeah,
Oh,
like
actually, that's a
just
point. Yeah.
go in and find an ancient crypt somewhere. Yeah, like no, this is
Yeah, no.
for
I'll
being
take
like
that back. That's a good point.
specifically dwarven, being very race specific. This is still very usable, like across the genres.
And the only other one I haven't spoken about are the Dwarven columns, which also look really nice.
Are so simplistically good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is really the best way to describe it, is simplistically good.
I mean, you have the sharp, harsh angles, but everything is like done so precisely. Like that's how a dwarf would do it.
Yeah. Very much so. So, yeah, that's it from TT Combat this week. We are going to talk about a company called Tabletopper, which is a company we haven't spoken about before. And honestly, it's a very simple story. These guys are actually doing a charity miniature right now for... Now, wait, hang on. Where is it? I will double check the charity in a minute. Basically, proceeds for this are all going towards charity. This is based on someone from what... It's based on Ewalt Ord, and I'm probably saying that wrong, so I apologize in advance. Basically, it's someone that's popular from World War II within a certain part of the world. Paul Hicks had sculpted this, and the mold is... He's done it for free, and basically he's cast 200 models. And
No,
that's
this
it.
is a gamer, Bruce.
Oh, it's a person
is
from
a-
a game.
No, a gamer. He likes strategic games with miniatures of history and Scotland. This is why he often combined this by playing
okay.
with Scots whenever possible.
Hence why I've heard of
So
them.
he was also an English teacher, and his motto was that he wanted to give students self-confidence. Learning came second.
And he left us early. Okay. Yep, that makes sense.
So Paul Hicks selflessly sculpted the model. The 10 rows made to be mold-free, charge and cast 200 models. Each model is sold for €15. The proceeds go entirely to the KWF.
It's
By
going
purchasing small,
towards- proceeds go to and the Dutch Cancer Society,
So let's
which is what the
if you don't know
KWF
about this
is.
and you know about now, let's if you can order one. I think that's a great cause for someone to go through the time and effort to sculpt something like this to raise funds and to memorialize a member of the gaming community in the case for the Dutch.
Yeah.
So
and because it's coming from the Netherlands, in theory, the postage shouldn't be too bad, really. I mean, if you order enough, then you'll get free postage. But otherwise, postage shouldn't be too bad. In theory, I haven't looked into it, but just in theory, especially if you're in that part of the world, like just go for it. Seriously. George.
yes.
You see these a lot in your area.
That's a huge misconception.
Skulls. Well, there's nobody that lives in Wyoming, so it must be old skulls, right?
Well, no, for one, most of the cattle here don't have horns, and two, cattle are typically watched over very closely because they're worth a lot of money, and therefore you would not have one, But that being said, these are ever so classic of what you would see in a Texas dive bar.
Yep.
Yeah, very much so. Look, I just came across these. Cromlech are doing these for scatter terrain. I thought they were quite good. They definitely stand out.
Also, the one's got a human skull in there with it in the bottom right.
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, there's two of them.
The one yeah, I was gonna say no. Bottom right, bottom left's got one. Bottom right's got one, and then
in the middle.
Middle one, yeah.
It's also probably worth noting that the one in the top right-hand corner that has the rock next to it, I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be a dragon skull. Because that's not a bovine skull, that top one. Most of them are, but that's a monster.
Maybe it's the monster why all the bovine are dead.
Maybe.
And the humans.
I think these are just supposed to be random-ish. I just thought...
But they do look good. They look really... I could totally see it like Wild West Exodus, like these would just be perfect as scatter terrain in that game.
Yeah.
Without ever actually having played that game. So
no, but you're right, because it's all Wild West, so of course it would be.
It would go great with a set of terrain that's still in a box that I couldn't not buy, so
you need to get around to that. Then again, I need to get around to half of the terrain that I own too.
You need to go around to half the crap I have.
Yeah.
Me too.
Archon Studio are back on Kickstarter again. This is another one of these companies that are there. I mean, they're not there as frequently as others, but they are there quite a bit. But they're always doing new stuff, so I don't so much mind it. This is more dungeon terrain and monsters. It tends to lean more into the miniature side of things this time, and an actual rule set for a world of their own. So you're getting an actual bestiary of more than 50 monsters and 150 plus encounters. There's a full-on RPG campaign. So like I say, legitimately they are doing something that's actually different this time. But it fits in with all of the terrain and stuff that they've done in the past. There are some really, really, really cool looking monsters here. I love the slithers in particular. Just snake people with wings. What's not to love about that?
So I'm trying to find the one that's in the main photo where it's got 11th of April 2023. The big one on the left-hand side. I'm trying to find that one because that one looks amazing.
It's like a wicked, twisted looking fairy thing.
Yeah. And it looks huge.
So there's different levels to this, and like in previous, you will be able to order their old terrain sets if you want. Oh, they got a base set. I didn't even notice that. Hello, JP. Welcome to this. Welcome to listening. I forgot where I was. Oh yeah, so the core set, lots and lots of minis, lots and lots. Fortress of Dragsa is not what George is looking for. I know it's here somewhere. I'm just scrolling down. Disciples of Chaos. Maybe she's one of the add-ons.
Well, I saw her kind of briefly mentioned up towards the top, so she's part of that set, but it just it looks so cool.
Yeah, it is. It's really, really pretty. Keep on going down to the White Eyes Dunes, which is, yes, it's dry undead. But there's a giant sandworm in there that looks amazing.
What is it called?
We're about halfway down into the White Eyes Dunes. Basically, it's Egyptian undead type stuff. There's a sphinx, but what I'm looking at is the giant sandworm. It looks incredible. I mean, it's a sandworm, but still, it's awesome.
Not see it, but I am seeing the modular river and the modular lava.
It's up above that. The sandworm that Bruce is looking at.
Okay, maybe.
But if
I think
if you scroll below the modular lava, modular river, you actually have those monsters from the very start. It's about, I would say, 3/4 of the way down under super stretch goals.
Now I'm looking for it again.
Holy smokes!
Oh,
There's
you got to keep
so
on
much going on
There's
here.
a lot.
Yeah, there is a
going
lot
on.
here. The Archon Studio, the D&D stuff that they do usually. There's the modular rivers and lavas you were talking about. They
keep
already
going down.
existed. You can actually order those now. Yeah, that's a really nice looking neoprene mat.
Yeah, it's past all the neoprene mats. It's past all their little force miniature packs, encounter packs. It's keep going down past the game masters, and then you got super stretch goals.
Here we go. The Kraken is amazing.
Yeah.
Drugs and never will fall. There it is. The Undying Queen Anara. I believe that is
there
the
we
one
go.
that he's
Okay.
talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
I love the Mimic Dragon too. That just looks like it's a tree. That is fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's
The
a
little
reason I
airship
point
looks
this
cool, too.
stuff out when it comes out, because Archon Studio have arguably never disappointed. There's only one thing I've ever seen from them that was disappointing, and that's the fact that the Kickstarter that they did for He-Man arguably has better models than what we have, George. And actually, no,
Yeah,
there's no argument in that at all.
Wait, the one we did has better models. Is that what you said?
No, Archon Studios does.
Oh yeah.
But that's all right.
can't
It was
speak to
also
that.
more expensive. So there you go. Archon Studios doing yet again another really cool looking Kickstarter. Like I mentioned briefly at the beginning, there is a whole heap of this that is like old stuff that's already created that you can buy at a discount. So if there's stuff in there that there's like a little rocket ship logo next to it, that basically means that you can order that and you'll get it faster than anything else. Unless you order it with stuff that you need to wait for. But if you only want some of their old stuff, it is a cheap way to get the old stuff too. So there you go. Banner Press. Last story of the day. This is an Australian publisher. They publish a couple of things. Tribal, we've spoken about briefly in the past.
I remember this. Yeah, it's a regular 52 card deck. Is how you use as like for movements and actions and stuff.
Yeah. So it's literally tribal warfare. It's taking people, like Aboriginal peoples of the past and so on and so forth. So on the cover of the second edition, which is what this is about, we've got our second edition rulebook that's now here. So you've got a Native American. There has been rules in the past for lots and lots of ancient tribal peoples. So you can kind of do whatever you want, essentially. So this actually does have stuff for ancient, as well as bringing in the colonial and the Bronze Age type stuff as well. I haven't played this. I'm really, really tempted to, though. I actually bought models to paint up for this, and they're still in a box out there. I need to get around to doing them at some point. But yeah, this looks really, really fun, and it's always good when there's new editions of stuff coming out to smooth things out and fix things up and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to briefly touch on that because, well, why would you not want to touch on that? Shall we discuss an indie?
Indie. Definition. Independent. Type. Slang word. Jargon.
I threw this specifically in for Socks because I know how much he loves this. It totally looks like 40k stuff.
Yep.
No, that's not entirely fair. RTLW or WRTL make lots and lots of miniatures that stand in for 40k, but specifically what I wanted to look at is a war game of their own that they're actually developing at the moment. So they're leaning more into the... George really loves the sound of this by the look of that. They're leaning more into your classic cyberpunk stuff of the 80s and 90s and kind of doing their own... Trying to do something with the minis that they have. It shouldn't be any surprise at this stage that they have good minis. They're very well known for it. But at this particular stage, I'm just going to open up these little box sets. So we've got the Hydrophilia box sets. So there's the Midnight Justice, which is where I'm going to start. Because I just want to look at these minis because they're very pretty. These very clearly are not inspired by 40k. They very much are their own thing, which is good because I like seeing something of their own. Midnight Justice, just honestly, it just looks like a cop faction, which obviously is all it is. I love the fact that the big guy that has the megaphone. Be quiet or I'll hit you with my Uzi. We also have the Shadow Warriors. Now, clearly with a name like that, they are going to be the most innocent faction that you'll ever come across. Certainly not a gang or anything. They're just really nice people. That's why they call themselves Shadow Warriors. The lady with the sword is really nice. This guy stole Akira's motorbike. Because that's totally Akira's motorbike, slightly.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Not even remotely close. Akira's bike is recumbent.
True, that is true.
Also, I get points for knowing the term recumbent and using it properly.
George gets points for any words that he says because usually words are too difficult. My favourite of them is probably Streets on Fire. Like this
The
really...
Pyros?
Yeah, this just screams 80s sci-fi. Which is what they're aiming for. I love the guy with the Molotov cocktail in particular. That's really nice. Lots of punk. Lots of... Yeah, I really like these guys. Oh, those torn jeans are amazing. For the record, if you haven't tried to paint jeans, give it a go. It's much harder than you think it is.
If you look at the punk girl with the mohawk and the baseball bat, you could tell if you look at the sculpt on the next image, there's even tears in her stockings.
Yeah. Yeah, they've done some amazing work here.
That is attention to detail.
Yeah.
And there's a guy trying to break into a piece of robot technology somewhere. I think that might be my favourite from the set so far. I think there's one more that I haven't opened, which is Flesh of Steel. I'm guessing these guys are going to be very much robotics. Yeah, pretty much. It's all cybernetic type stuff, which doesn't surprise me. I like the tag, and I'm going to call it a tag because it kind of looks like it's straight out of Infinity.
I was going to say that set looks very Infinity-like.
Yeah.
To be fair, Infinity do style themselves after this sort of stuff, so that makes sense.
Well, you're done showing that off. There's one mini I want to talk about that I just saw.
Yeah?
That's not one of the box sets. So, it is called the Exo Trooper 1.
Oh, this is a modular one. Yep. Ooh.
I'm
nice.
sorry. That looks so badass.
Oh, that's brilliant. All of this stuff is in resin, by the way. It's not just colored this way. It is in resin. And this looks like it'd be really easy to build too. Oh, you got head options. You got one where the helmet's open. That's cool. Yeah,
So
no, I'm totally with
right
you
here,
on that.
right now, I'm telling you this right now. This would be a great stand-in for a Devastator Marine.
Yeah. I just want to point out, George, that miniature's only $15.
Yeah, I know. I see that.
It's only 22 for me.
It's not bad.
It's not bad at all. Like the value on these sets are really like those initial box sets that we were talking about are $50. Like it's fairly decent value, most of this stuff. I mean, it's a third-party company, so it kind of needs to be, but like, this is really, really nice stuff. There is a second page that has more stuff. You can buy all of this stuff separately. You don't have to buy it all together. The dealer on the second page is fun. It's like just straight out of a movie with the giant trench coat. Would you like to buy some ammo? So yeah,
He's even got a 30. Oh my God, he's got a 5 1/4 floppy disk.
he does too. I didn't even notice that. That's brilliant.
Oh my God.
Which page? First page?
Second
it's
page.
the dealer on second page.
George recognizes
Look
it because this is the peak of technology as far as he understands it.
Oh, yep. That's awesome.
It's
This
okay,
stuff looks really good.
George. 5 1/4 drives, like for most of us, they're a thing of the past. But we actually have like discs and like this here can hold millions of those drives.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go out and say it. That Exo Trooper is literally one of the best miniatures I have seen.
Yeah, they've done some
Like,
amazing work. And this is from a company
period,
that
him.
RTLW are known for really good miniatures. They are known as a premium miniature company. But I'm just looking at something of their own because I thought it was interesting that they were making a game of their own.
Well, and this looks like this is used with that game, but still. Like,
you could stand in this stuff easily. I just noticed you can actually
yeah.
just download the rules. I hadn't even noticed that when I first put this on the sheet. You can literally just download the rulebook, which is fun.
I think that's smart. Like making rules for a game readily available so someone can check it out and like kind of proxy playtest, I think is so much better than you have to spend $50 to find out what the rules are to figure out if you actually like the game or
Want to play the
not.
game.
Yeah, even if if the download, because I'm still in the middle of developing my own, so I'm currently trying to think of how I want to do this as well. Because the idea, the thing that people fear is that once they do that, nobody's going to buy their rule books, and then they've wasted all their money on those physical books that take up space and so on and so forth. There will still be people that buy them. I think what people are not doing that they probably could if they needed to. Oh, the artwork on this is amazing. Yeah, basically they've done what I was going to say. They've done basically a quick rule set that you can download and try out the game. And then obviously you can buy the full thing if you want to buy the full thing. The other thing I would say is that realistically, if you were a developer, just make the download version of the rulebook not as pretty as the real thing. Because if they're just downloading it, it doesn't really matter how pretty it looks. I mean, don't make it look ugly, obviously, but save all of the really premium artwork for the physical book.
Just put the core basic rules up, and then, here's the rule book that has faction-specific stuff. You actually have to buy this one, though.
Yeah.
Like, but I guarantee if you do that, you'll sell the rule books. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
But I think making it available so that, people can learn and try the game before buying something and realize, ooh, I like this game, but I don't want this. I want this actually.
Yep.
Cream, glue, prime, paint.
You want to go, Socks, or do you want me to go?
I'll go. All right. So I know we're in this painting competition, but I've had a horrible couple weeks playing games, and it's made me not want to do anything. George and Bruce know that I've been ranting to them. What, since yesterday? This morning? I don't know.
We haven't even told our Patreon this yet. Like, JP is going to be finding this out as we're saying this right now. I was going to say something on the Discord last night. And I'm like, no, I'm just gonna let Socks talk about it first because I didn't want to take away your thunder.
So I played 2 games of Legion over the last couple of weeks, and I played 2 rounds out of 6 because I've lost that early in the game, and it's gotten me to the point where I'm like, I'm done with games. I'm done with painting. So we're gonna hold off on the painting competition for a little bit until I can get back in my head. Although I've been doing a lot of hobby anyways.
Yeah. Now, I know that we've already had this conversation, so I'm going to say things as if I'm talking to you, but I'm really saying it to the people that's listening. What you're dealing with right now is called burnout, and it is a legitimate thing that men in particular are really bad at ignoring, because we don't talk about things. Burnout is something that I have been struggling with partially secretly. I mean, I know that you guys know, but I think I've kind of held it back a little bit as well. I've been dealing with burnout for probably 2.5, 3 years at this point. That's why my hobby it's one of the reasons why my hobby has been so sporadic.
Same here. So,
yeah. So it is a legitimate thing. Like George and I had, without showing it off, how far had you gotten? I know you'd built it. No, I mean Socks. Don't show it off. Don't show it off. Socks, how far through were you? I know you built it.
I just painted the skin and the scales. That's as far as I'd gotten because I was trying to figure out how to do the I was wanting to do some feathering, some wet blending on the feathers, and I've never done that before. So I was talking with George offline, and that's why he called me and said, "Hey, do you have anything other than polos?" Because it was that phone call.
Okay. Don't show it off, George.
I haven't gotten much further other than painting his skin and his scales. So I was trying to get I was getting frustrated because I was using. I'm not going to show it off. I was using the sprue to try out some ideas.
That's not a bad idea, honestly.
Get it to work without messing up the model. Yep. And I couldn't get it to work. And so that's part of my burnout. I was just like, I can't figure this out.
Well, and like I told you too, Socks, wet blending is a very, very, very high-end technique and skill.
Yeah.
Like, if you can do basic wet blending, you have got a way better handle on stuff than, 60% of the hobby group there, Bruce?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, it's something that's very easy to do, but in theory and in practice are 2 very different things. I will say this, speed paints / contrast / da-da-da-da-da certainly help in that area. They're not necessarily the answer, but they definitely do help because they're more watery. Basically, the idea is you need them not to dry as quickly as they normally would. So you want what's the word? There's a word for a medium that you can add to paint to make it wet for longer.
Yeah, it's called a medium. It's called medium.
But there's a specific one.
Yeah, it's called medium.
Okay, fine. That's not the word I'm looking for, but we'll accept it.
But back to me actually doing hobby, because I have done some.
Yes.
So you guys know I got my Gettysburg set, so I put together.
I'm surprised you haven't mentioned this, Socks.
I know. I put together my horse stable.
It is a fun kit.
It is a fun kit, and then I've put together 5 regiments. Those are my infantry sprues. They're not totally done because I'm going to be painting the other ones on the sprues themselves. But I wanted to paint those ones on the base so I could have the base primed at the same time. And I've got 5 cannons put together as well. So as part of my relaxation of non-burnout, trying to get myself out of the burnout. I've been doing that. So
You had to switch to old man hobby.
I did. I had to switch to old man hobby, 15 mil.
Yeah. So Socks spoke to us about this his morning, my last night. And I pulled George aside, and I didn't tell Socks this. I pulled George aside.
I figured you guys did after the comments.
I didn't want to have that conversation in front of you because I didn't want you to feel guilty that you'd ruined the competition. And I'm like, George, do we want to just cancel this for now and do it later? And I kind of waited for George's response, and I suspect that he probably retyped it 3 or 4 times because it seemed to take for ages. So basically, the decision we've made is that at this stage, we're putting the miniature aside, and whatever footage you guys have, I don't know if it's much, but obviously keep it because I will still want that at some point.
Hour and 20 minutes.
Socks, if you need to clear,
That's not how mine is.
If you ever get to a point where you need to clear space off your phone, just upload it to the drive first and then label it so that we don't look at it or something. But yeah, we will introduce this at a later stage.
Thanks, George.
For those of you that haven't dealt with burnout or are not overly familiar with the term, it is very much a real thing, and there really is only one way to get over it, and that is to take a break. Now, Socks is taking a break from a lot of the gaming and stuff, and he's concentrating in a different way. Hopefully it doesn't affect your 15 mil. It might. I'm just warning you this now. You may get to a point where you can't do that either.
Especially with how much I have to do. I mean, I have 9 regiments like that, and each regiment is 5 stands. So that's, a lot of stands.
Worst case scenario, my advice, honestly, is if you start feeling drained and you want to break, just put everything down and don't do it for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. I mostly just based him like that. That way I can just play him on the table like this with my son, and then have some fun while I'm at it. But part of the burnout that I'm getting to is I'm in another master's degree program for the military. This is a military regimented master's degree program.
Good Lord.
Yeah, that I have to get done, or if I want to be competitive enough for my next promotion, which is in a couple of years. So it's not fun. It's not a normal master's program that I have a choice in my degree. It's all leadership military regimen. So yeah, it's trying to get that finished and do stuff at the same time is burning me out. So
yeah, it's completely understandable. From my perspective, most of my hobby for the last 6 to 8 months has all gone towards my own project, my own game. And there's a reason for that. Well, there's a couple of reasons. One of them is that, you know what, I actually would like this to become a product one day.
Yeah.
And if I don't do that, it won't happen. I've been talking about doing this for almost a decade. So I'm actually doing it while I have the motivation for it. I am very aware that I will eventually get to a point where I'm at a wall and I want to break. But until I do that, and that's where I'll be like, I'm going to try and learn how to sculpt, which will be something that I also want to do. Because I don't have a lot of money to pay for sculpts. So I'm going to have to do it myself.
Yeah.
Well, just to go with that too, like, painting for me has been really, few and far between the last, few years.
Yeah.
It wasn't until like I got the trees and I got the custodies that we started doing that. Like the amount of painting I've logged in the last 2.5 months is more than I've done in the last 2.5 years. Just as an indication. So, I mean, it's not so much like you can take a break and then, the break starts getting longer and longer. I think what, ultimately you need to do too is you need to find something that motivates you and excites you again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think that's what Gettysburg. I think that's what my Gettysburg set will do. Is it's a game that I've been wanting to get into since 2015, 16 timeframe. I'm finally getting into it. It's a time period that I've always been fascinated with. I mean, I've got ancestors that fought in the war, so I'm doing some family history to see which unit he actually was in, so I could paint up that unit, kind of. But also, go ahead, Bruce.
I was just just on the same subject. Like, this is a Kroot warrior from the new Kill Team Kroot set. I don't remember when I put the video live, but I opened this a month ago. And it's sitting right here in front of me because I really want to paint them. And it's never moved. But none of them, like, they're not even primed.
Yeah. So another thing that's hard for me that you guys don't have any problem with, George kind of does, but his son is old enough and he's only there every other weekend or whatever. I've got 2 young kids. Yes, I can lock my door, but trying to set up my stuff on a painting table like George does is hard to do because my kids could just come in here. They know that not to very often, but I never know
You
when I'm
have
at work.
kids, and that's 50% your fault, Socks.
I know it is.
Actually, Socks, I have something worse than that.
Cats.
Cats.
Yeah. So yeah, you have your cats that run around. Luckily, I can shut my door, whereas yours is possibly a little hard, especially with the tree stand right behind you. So
There's a reason why the tree stands there, so they mess with that instead of my desk.
yeah, true.
So yeah, apologies for those that were excited about looking at that video next month. That was obviously the initial plan, but given that burnout is legitimately a real thing, and I know I keep on repeating that, but there is a reason, because there is people out there that are kind of along the lines of weak-mindedness and da-da-da, you should just push through, and that's actually the worst thing you can do for burnout. Scientifically, this is proven. This is not up for discussion. It's actually a thing. And that's why I've been phrasing all of my comments around that, because taking a break is like, it's just, I had to force myself to do the same thing. I'm really only just starting to come back out of it. So, yeah, we're going to be taking a break. We don't know how long that break will be. Sorry, the painting competition will be taking a break. We don't know how long that break will be. It's not affecting the podcast, which is why I went, oh, crap, I better rephrase that. But yeah.
So, I'm going to throw in some positive stuff on the hobby. One, I am so glad I made the decision I did to get scale 75 paints. I've exclusively, with the exception of gray, exclusively used scale 75s on the painting competition so far amongst us. And I have to say, holy cow. If you're looking, if you're looking to like
stuff.
Especially for your Gettysburg stuff, Socks, with like, the very distinct, Union and South colors. Seriously, go look at some scale 75 paint for those. I'm not exaggerating. And that I've also been using my wet palette,
Nice.
which it just leaked. I tipped it too far. It leaked. But just to get an idea, look how red that red is. Like,
That is pretty red.
That's the one from the Cape, yeah?
Yeah, that's the one. You know how you use that blue on your Skaven there, Bruce? And I was just like, ooh, that blue is so good. I was obsessed with that blue for a little bit.
Yeah.
Same thing has happened with this red. Like that, and that's just the quality of the paint. So I'll throw that out there to you, Socks. Like, if you want to really like get some good paint and make your stuff look good, seriously look at that scale 75. You'll find some stuff.
So my Confederates are going to be mixed colors, kind of like the early on where they just grabbed whatever they could find from their closets and as they headed out the door. That's how I'm going to paint my Confederates. So I'll have to look and see what stuff I can find hodgepodge wise. But I've got some colors that I want for my Union already, so I'll look for the Confederate size.
Yeah. I mean, on the hobby side for me, like physically, there hasn't been a lot. There has been quite a bit in the game. I was supposed to be going and testing Friday night, but unfortunately, I've had more problems trying to get the bike going. My bike is still not fixed. I'm so beyond frustrated at this stage. While I was trying to take the stator out, one of the bolts stripped and rounded out, and now I couldn't get it out.
That's not fun.
No, and I wasn't using a power tool. This is all by hand. It's just the problem with aluminium bolts is that sometimes they just don't hold up. Maybe my Allen key just wasn't in there all the way, and it's just started, and then once it started, it was too late. So that'll be something else I've got to do this afternoon in between video editing. Yay, fun. I was supposed to be back on the road today, but I'm still not. And that certainly hasn't helped anything. But game-wise, I wrote up the rules this week for the NPCs, because one of the core things for the game was always supposed to be that, in theory, the police could interfere in whatever your gangs are doing at the time. So I've kind of written up some examples of, like, basically the idea is that starting at the start of turn 2, both players roll a die, and results of that will determine whether they come on or not. The longer the game goes, the higher the chance of them turning up are, if they don't turn up to begin with. And there's different places on the board where they could be spawning, so that you, in theory, can't... because if you know exactly where they're coming, then you can kind of plan around it. So it's trying to avoid that. And in theory, there's, at this stage, 10 different versions of them that could show up, and each of them have different goals, starting from I'm spawning here and I'm defending this location, to I'm going to attack whatever is closest to me, to I'm going to target the most isolated miniature, and then so on and so forth, so that you don't necessarily know exactly what it is that's happening, but at the same time, it's not something, because what I don't want is this to throw out the balance of the game, or just to become annoying. I mean, it's certainly something that people may choose to ignore, and that's fine, especially from if it ever got to a point where there was tournaments and stuff. There's already been people that's been like, yeah, you probably couldn't have this in tournaments, and I would have that's fine. I wouldn't have a problem with it, but it's about trying to add depth and narrative to the gameplay. It has kind of evolved a little. It's not just the cops that can interfere now. It will be other people as well. And as the game develops, my intention is to flesh that out more. At this stage, it's the anarchists and the police and a couple of vigilantes that could show up. The vigilantes kind of being the, oh no, I really didn't want that to happen type scenario. There's one in particular.
No, it's JP's comment. It's not you, Bruce. It was JP's comment. He said, please let there be LARPers.
LARPers. I'm thinking, why is Vigilante so funny? I don't get it.
The fact that Socks and I just started, like, we lost at the same time, too. Like...
I thought it was something that I'd said, and I couldn't figure out what I'd said that was funny. I have this one Vigilante that's... I spoke at some point, I think privately, I don't think I said it on the podcast, about... I had this idea of a guy that's all dressed in high-vis, because there's this idea that high-vis means that you can't be hurt. And so I had this idea of, like, this one Vigilante that's just a real pain in the butt, because he just ignores stress and stuff, and he won't go away. And basically his thing is that he will attack whoever is the most violent. So you can get around him, and you can still take him out. It's just that you can't stress him out, if that makes sense. But that's like the hardest to show up, and if it does, then it's a pain in the ass, is the idea. But anyway, that's where things stand right now.
Talk nerdy to me.
George.
Nerdy or anything like that.
Last episode, we talked about a very awesome and cool release, or not release, release done by Games Workshop of The Return of the Lion. Which means at some point there would be a scramble to order one when Games Workshop released it for sale. That was today. And
yeah,
as
except
per
it's
usual,
not. It's not available anywhere apart from the UK. That we can find.
Per usual, Games Workshop has had many side issues when I was trying to look at how much it was going to cost. I could not get to the page, kept getting page maintenance. Like, it was saying the page was under maintenance, not that, like, I couldn't get there. And just could not access it. Probably about 40 minutes. And then finally I was able to get to the page. You can get Dante, you can get all the other stuff, but if you click on the lion or the Lion Collector Kit, which the Lion's 110 and the Collector Kit is 265 US dollars. But if you click on the pre-order of those, it says not available. So that means that, this is already not available. Which brings us to the next point. Bruce, would you like to show off the page?
Yeah. All right. There's a rant incoming on this, and it's not just it's not. I'm warning you guys now. It's not. I'm not just ranting at the people that are doing it. I'm going to be ranting on other people as well. But yes, let's have a look.
Has put the Dark Angels, Lionel Johnson, and Bladeguard veteran retinue on eBay for the low price of $399.77, with you pay $4.99 in shipping.
Yeah.
So
there's two sides of this argument. Well, if it's not available, then the price goes up. Yeah, sure. Except it's not that you can't buy this at the moment. It's just that it's sold out right now. Also, that doesn't actually make it better. It just means that you're excusing a very bad behavior. But here's the thing. The problem with this sort of stuff is that it works. That's the problem. There's already 5 people that are watching this auction in the last 24 hours, which means that there are 5 people that are, I'm sorry, stupid enough to actually consider paying for this. And I'm not taking that back. I'm calling you stupid. Because you'll be able to buy this in a week or two, but you don't want to. You're not a very smart person, whoever you are. All 5 of you.
So here's the next argument, too. Do you remember the Indomitus box, Bruce?
Yep. Yeah, this is where I was going. Yep.
And that sold out so quickly, and Scalpers were charging, $600-700 for the $200 box? And it was such a widespread issue that Games Workshop said, go to the website, order it, we'll make the box and send it to you, essentially stopping the Scalpers.
See, here's the stupid thing about this, though. That was actually a limited time offer. So at least there was, I'm not saying that it's right, but at least there was a justification as to why it happened. Like, that's literally a box that you couldn't buy anymore. Yeah. This is a regular product that will be back in stock next week. I suspect that in the US, it actually hasn't been gone up for sale yet. That's my assumption at this stage.
I click on it, and it says this product is no longer available.
In Australia, this is not even orderable. It's not on our pre-orders yet. I received the same email that you did telling me that it was available, but it's not actually available in our region at all. It's not even listed on the website.
Bruce, if you go to the US website, it's listed there.
Oh, I know.
If you click pre-order, it comes up and says this product is no longer available. Why is there a limit on the pre-order, Games Workshop? If you're launching something and people want to pre-order it, you let them pre-order it and you get the number and realize, oh crap, we need to have way more of these made.
Yep. Now, this has been a problem with games. This has been a problem with Games Workshop for a little while now. And I may get bite back for this, but when has that ever stopped me? There's been a few times where we've heard comments from retailers about how, like, the shipping hasn't arrived and there's been limited stock and so forth. It's like, this is happening again. How odd. I'm not convinced that this is happening accidentally. I believe that they are actually doing this on purpose at this stage. And I'm saying that they're doing it on purpose for the same reason that video game companies are doing it on purpose, because they want people to have that fear of missing out so that they will be willing to push harder to get things that they want and then just buy it because it jacks up prices. They can justify prices more. I genuinely think the Games Workshop are doing it on purpose at this stage. Now, there may be people that disagree with me on that, and that's fine. But if I was a retailer, I would be getting very angry with Games Workshop at this point. Because if I'm right, then Games Workshop are sabotaging retailers to try and make more money on their website, is basically what's going on here. And the accusation that I'm making.
Yeah, and all the chats and everything this morning, I saw someone mention, it's crap Games Workshop is limiting retailers to 3.
And
So
that's not even the worst of it. Quite frequently of late, they've been restricting retailers to one.
Yeah, like
We've seen evidence of that. I mean, we haven't actually spoken about it because it was private information. But like, we have seen evidence of the fact that they are doing that. Not with this mini in particular, but with other bundles and stuff in the past.
yeah, I mean, I just think it's an absolute. Trying to think of the right word to use here. It's just the neglectful treatment of the fan base of here's a mini that we have quite literally like I want to get one of these just because I have the Space Wolves. I have some stuff that was going to set aside as Dark Angels because I had the grand idea of there's that specific stratagem of you have to have Dark Angels and Space Wolves for the stratagem, the possibility of having Primarchs both sides, etc., etc. Like, I kind of want to get this. Like, it'll probably eventually hit my cart. But to have something like this and have so much hype for it and build it up so much and make us wait for so long before you even announce it.
Hence why I'm making the accusation. There's no way this is accidental.
Yeah, and not have it so that even 50%, like I guarantee you it's like 5% of the community. Not even 50% of the community has an opportunity to pre-order this on a pre-order. What's the point of having a limited pre-order if you can't pre-order it?
Yeah. There's another side to this argument. And JP may want to listen to this part because it applies to one of the other things that me and JP have in common. Because the other argument for this is, yeah, but scalping's a problem everywhere. And yeah, you're right. Scalping is a problem everywhere. It's a problem in PCs at the moment. Like graphics cards were literally being sold at retail for about 4 or 5 times what they were actually worth and being purchased for those prices because scalpers jacked up the prices that much. And again, that doesn't justify it. As much as you want to say it does, that is not a justification. It happens in action figures, quite frequently in the Transformer fan base. It actually happens in the others as well, but that's usually where you hear people moaning about it more frequently, because a Transformer will come out that people want, and then you'll go into your local store to buy it. But the moment that they were on the shelves, the scalpers have brought them and then thrown them on eBay because then they know if nobody can buy them, then they have to buy them online for a more expensive price, so that they can artificially raise the price, and it's an artificial raising of the price.
And unfortunately, like for a limited edition, a limited run, like there's not much you can do to combat this.
No, but this is a regular release.
Well, yeah, that's what I say. It's like Games Workshop has limited a regular release to where the scalpers, which Games Workshop has actively tried to combat by saying, go to the site or the box will make a box for you. That's the way to do it is, if someone wants it, let them order it and just say, hey, we ran out. You'll get yours a week later.
Yeah. Or 6 months later, which is what they usually promise. It's usually quicker than that.
Yeah. But just allow the pre-order to happen, not say, oh, this is no longer available. Well, what the heck? This is something that's going to be on your site for the next however many years.
And was planned and was planned at least 2 years ago.
Oh, I would say it's planned even longer. I would say 4 years, even 5.
Here's the other thing, though, because I mean, we're throwing a lot of shade at the scalpers, and rightfully so. They deserve it. And hypothetically, if one of you listening are a scalper and you feel insulted by this, then by all means, don't listen to us next time because, quite frankly, we don't care about you. But here's the other side of the argument, because the scalpers wouldn't be able to get away with it if people weren't willing to let them get away with it, because and it's not most of the fan base, but there are people out there that will give into the temptation of this because they don't want to wait. And it's not a small amount of people. It's quite a large amount of people that let them get away with this. I used the word stupid earlier because it's not an intelligent decision to make. I would probably argue that there's only one of us in this discussion right now that's never been tempted, and that would be Socks, to give in to one of these things. Because correct me if I'm wrong, Socks, but if something's too expensive, like ignoring
What
retail
usually
price,
says no?
you're just not going to buy it because that's just
No, I won't.
yeah. And it's not even a matter of because you'll make that decision at retail half the time, where retail prices is like that's not even the discussion that we're having. Lord knows we've had that discussion before too. But when it comes to scalping, I've been tempted in the past. I've never given in to that temptation, but I've been tempted. There was things that I felt that I needed when I didn't. I'm like, well, I can't buy it. I mean, I guess I don't have a choice. And then I was like, no, I'm not. Because I will not support the scalping base. I won't do it. It's never happening. If I have to miss out on something, then I will miss out on something. I'm never going to allow them to get away with it. And until everybody gets on that bandwagon, this won't stop. This is a discussion that I don't think is happening enough. Because the fact that people give in to this, because they start listening to the other side of the argument, and make no mistake, the people that are trying to do that and justify that, if they're not the scalpers, they're working with them. Quite frequently, I suspect, especially on Facebook, the people justifying this and trying to argue about how that's how capitalism works, which, yes, is true, but I suspect that a lot of that is coming from people that own multiple accounts and are saying that so that people will buy their own stuff. I genuinely don't believe that any of the people having that conversation are not scalpers. They're either scalpers or they're people that want to be scalpers and are trying to make sure it continues so that they can get in on it next time. So, there you go. That's my rant. My rant is don't give in to them and try to push this on other people that will listen to you as well. Like, legit, I think this is a rant that we all need to be having.
Yeah, for sure.
Because
the only thing
when it comes to
does
when it comes to FOMO, Games Workshop needs to understand that people won't put up with it either. And until you make them understand that by speaking with your wallet, this problem is not going to go away. It's only going to get worse, which is what has been happening for at least 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah. I think scalping is probably one of the worst possible things. Now, and there's a difference. Like, so this time last year, I paid several $100s for an unspeakable box for the Call of Cthulhu board game.
Yep.
I don't feel I was scalped on that because at that point in time, there were no more copies of that box being made. There was a finite amount of those copies available.
Yeah, that's a different discussion. I agree.
A collector edition price. And I don't feel wronged by that at all. What's going on right now is there's a comic book with a limited set of investigators that people are charging $400 to $500 for because there's this new generation of people in this game that are wanting to have everything now. And so you're seeing a run on, some of the stuff, and that is a scalp in my opinion, when you're charging that kind of exorbitant amount. So, if you're paying for a scalper for something because you can't get it and you have to have it right now, you're as guilty as the scalper because you're
100%
okaying that scalper's behavior to continue doing this. Wait 6 months and buy it at regular retail.
Yep.
JP, does this auction come with Trojans? Oh dear. Anyway, that's Games Talk. Apologies if you don't like listening to me rant, but when it's coming on subjects like this, I have opinions. And actually, no, I'm not sorry at all.
Tournaments, demos, conventions, that kind of stuff.
All right. Upcoming events.
Conquest Games Convention, the 7th through 9th of April at Coburg Town Hall.
No, that was last weekend.
Was that last weekend? Oh, hey, that is last weekend, huh? Fistful of Rice, Bushido Tournament, 29th of April. Boards and Swords Hobbies and Derby UK. Then we have Salute, the 22nd of April in the Excel Center in London.
And then we
Bruce is going to PAX Australia the 6th to 8th of October. Yes,
I will be. I haven't got my ticket yet, but I will be there. And I'm not going to hurt my knee this time.
Yeah, don't hurt your knee this time.
No, I actually want to enjoy myself, not be miserable the entire time.
That way you can walk around and like actually do things instead of hobble around like old man Socks with his 15 mil game.
Yep.
Thanks.
Anytime, Socks. Anytime.
Dude, Socks, as soon as Bruce pointed that out that you're old and doing a 15 mil
I know.
game, you are not hearing the end of it from me.
I know.
Right, he's the first one to bail out on the recording like, it's late, I need to go to bed, I'm tired, guys.
He's also the youngest among us, too.
Yes, I am.
I mean, not really, but
Not by
as far as age is concerned, he is the youngest.
Not by much.
We've also got Northern King Con, which remains the best name for an event I've ever heard, which is at Ossett West in Yorkshire. I thought I fixed that last time.
Obviously not.
Yeah, I know. Weird. £55. It includes a hot lunch on both Saturday and Sunday. If you look for these, you'll be able to find them on Facebook because that's where I got them from. Hey, Socks, can you read through our social stuff?
Yep. So once again, our sponsor is Valhobby. You can find them at valhobby.com. But if you want to get in contact with us, Patreon at patreon.com/gettingtabled. Our website is gettingtabled.com. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube at facebook.com/gettingtabled or youtube.com/gettingtabled. And if you want to email us, gettingtabled@gmail.com. And on Twitter and Instagram, it's at gettingtabled. And then Bruce has his own little streaming, which is on and off right now until September. And that's twitch.tv/JasonTheBruce.
And yes, do check out Valhalla Hobby. GT2303, you get 5% off any order over $100. ValhallaHobby.com. Support the people that support us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For listening to Getting Tabled. Music used in this podcast was created by Eric Matyas at soundimage.org.